What's up guys, Kyle here again, and it is time for another Viewers Comments episode. I'm excited. I don't know if you're excited, but I'm excited. So let's go ahead. First comment comes from Ordo Hereticus, and he says, I use the 7-minute mark of this video to show others how important the pick attack can be for tightening up the sound, especially with tube amps and passive pickups. Ordo is referring to my Mesa triple rectifier video where I kind of demonstrate the difference in picking dynamics and how much it matters in kind of tightening up your sound, getting a punchy percussive sound. Certain amps are a little bit more dry, a little bit more stiff, they're not as compressed, and you have to play the amp harder in order to get a tighter, more percussive sound, a more saturated sound. And while a lot of guitarists know that, a lot of guitarists don't, and a lot of guitarists come from solid state gear that's super compressed, super gainy, and generally really easy to play, or even something like a 5150 that's just really easy to get a good saturated percussive tone out of. And then they come over to something like a dual rectifier or a quick rod, and they struggle really badly getting a good sound out of it, and it comes down to them not having the right hand dynamics or picking hand dynamics. They pick very loosely, they don't hit the strings hard, and everything just sounds kind of flubby and lifeless and dull. So in that video I demonstrate what the difference is when you play really lightly, really loosely with your right hand on an amp like that versus really kind of digging in and hitting those strings with some feeling, with some intent, and how far it can go into really shaping your tone for the better. So I'm glad that people can find info on this channel useful enough that they can show it to other people just to, you know, kind of get whatever point that it is that they're trying to get across to somebody. That's really cool to me. I'm glad that you guys find the info that I provide in these videos helpful, and I hope that I can continue to do so. But yeah, if you guys are unhappy with the sound of your tube amps, if things don't sound percussive enough, if they don't sound saturated enough, go in and work on your right hand picking dynamics, work on strengthening your right hand, tightening your right hand. All of this sounds absolutely terrible if you take it out of context, but you guys know what I mean. Really get your picking hand into shape if you're playing on an amp that's a little bit more dry, a little bit less compressed if you want to get the most out of that amp. Next comment comes from Sean O'Brien, and he says, I've been considering one of these. Do you still like this amp? He is commenting on my Mesa Badlander 50 video, and the answer is yes, I absolutely still love the Mesa Badlander amp. You guys don't see it on the video very much because I kind of did like 3 or 4 videos with it when it first came out, and kind of feel like I answered all the questions that people were asking of me regarding the Badlander, so I don't want to overdo the amp. I have thought about doing a revisit type video to the Badlander since it's been almost a year and a half already since I got the amp and since the amp has been released to the public. So I thought about revisiting it if there is some interest. I'm staring over here because it's sitting in front of me. I just did a different video with it. But yeah, if you guys want to see me do a revisit video to the Badlander and see if all the nice things that I had to say hold up about it, if I can still get tones that I'm happy with out of it a year and a half later, let me know down in the comments, because I'm definitely interested in doing stuff like that. Still have a lot of amps in my collection that I need to get to in the first place in order to make a proper demo for them. But again, I want to hear from you guys and hear what you want to see the most from me, because that is what I use to schedule my content moving forward. So yeah, Badlander 50, still love it, really no complaints about it. I have yet to really use it in a band setting, if you can believe that, because for my bands that I have right now, I kind of have set amplifiers that it's hard for me to move away from, but I'm gonna start working it into the rotation a little bit more and seeing how it works. Maybe in tandem with another amp, or maybe by itself, we'll see. Bucky Bond says, there is an American company looking to take on the hole in the tube market. Yes, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this article and this link making the rounds. I know I've seen it a lot on Facebook, a lot of people sharing it, but there is a company called Western Electric, and they have kind of put a feeler out there into the social media world to see if people would be interested in them making vacuum tubes for guitar amplifiers here in the USA. So I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know what type of threshold they need to meet to really genuinely like take it into consideration to start planning for production of USA made power and preamp tubes for amplifiers here in the United States. I personally, being a little bit of a realist, I feel like it's kind of far-fetched, but if they do go into production and they make a quality product, I will be happy to purchase from them. I don't know about you guys, I've already seen a number of comment threads where this is what I love about the internet. You get the damned if you do, damned if you don't, because people want USA made products, but the backlash on those USA products, but the backlash I see in threads where people are talking about getting USA made products is they're probably gonna cost twice as much. And that's not wrong, that's correct. I mean, most things made in the USA cost a premium just based on the amount it costs to manufacture here in the USA alone. And that has nothing to do with the quality of the product, because we can still make things terribly here in the US of A. That purely just goes into what it takes to operate a business, what it takes to have a workforce and a manufacturing force here in the United States, not only due to workers' wages, but worker laws. You cannot overwork people, you have to pay them overtime, you have to give them benefits once they work so many hours a week, and all that costs a lot of money. Whereas when you make stuff overseas, and one of the main reasons that people started making things overseas in the first place is labor is much, much cheaper over there. For a long time, there were not really any labor laws that prevented these companies from completely exploiting their workers. And as a matter of fact, I don't really know if there are laws in a lot of the countries that we are manufacturing in overseas to this day. But that is one of the main reasons why things are cheaper to manufacture overseas. So keep in mind, even if Western Electric does get enough interest where they see it to be financially viable for them to start producing vacuum tubes for amplifiers here in the US of A, it's gonna cost a lot more to get them, guys. How will the prices compare to the currently inflated prices on the tube market? Because we have very little access to Russian tubes, Chinese tubes, and there is now a premium on Russian tubes, which are already behind in production. They're having a hard time meeting all of their orders as it is. So right now it is a seller's and a manufacturer's market as far as tubes go. They can pretty much price things any way they see fit, and we're already seeing skyrocketing tube prices. So not to mention the tariffs that were just placed on the Russian companies as well. But again, I would like to see an American company making tubes here in the United States, and I would like to see everybody purchasing from that American company. But you also have to keep in mind that the prices are gonna be much more expensive than they would be if you were to purchase from JJ or from Shuguang or Ruby or whatever, Chinese company is producing tubes. I already know that people are gonna cry about the price if this does go into effect and Western Electric does start making USA made tubes. As soon as the prices are revealed, there's gonna be an uproar from some people, but guys, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot have USA made products that are of a high quality that are even going to be able to remotely compete with overseas products. So you got to keep that in mind. That is the state of the world. That is why most manufacturing moved overseas in the first place, because it was a race to the bottom dollar. We as the consumer voted for that. So now if we want to see American manufacturing come back, we have to pay for it, and you got to keep that in mind. So with all that realism stuff out of the way, yeah, go down into the description if you are interested in filling out the short survey for Western Electric to see if they can generate enough interest to start making vacuum tubes here in the USA for guitar amplifiers. Put your money where your mouth is. It only takes a couple of minutes to go down there and fill out a short survey if you really truly want to see tubes being made here in the US. Based Guitarist says, mine sounds nothing like yours out of the gate. Mine sounds dark, flubby, and bad. I'm using a Wolfgang and a good interface. Okay, so Bass Guitarist left this comment on my video for the ML Sound Labs Amped Roots plugin. That is the Fluff signature plugin, and he is having issues with his signal not sounding correct in ML Roots. Now, one of the main things that I have found when people are having issues with getting plugins to sound good is it usually comes down to them having too much gain on the front end of their interface. Certain interfaces like the Focusrite Scarlett, 2nd gen, 3rd gen, it doesn't matter. You can still have the input gain too high even though it shows the green halo light around the gain dial for a plugin, contrary to what a lot of people think. Even if your signal is not clipping the front end of the Focusrite, you're not getting that yellow or that red halo ring around the gain control, your signal can still be too hot for a plugin. So if you go into your DAW, if you're playing this plugin in your DAW, and the track that you have the plugin armed on, check your input gain there, because a lot of the time, even if you're good on the front of your interface, you can still be peaking in your DAW, or the input gain can be too high in your DAW. So what I aim for is I'll plug it in and I'll hit some low end chugs. And the highest that I want my signal to be is -6 dB in my DAW. I do not want the palm mutes, which are pretty much going to be the loudest thing going into the front end of your interface because you're pushing a lot of low end into the interface, and that is what is going to peak the signal the most. You want that highest peaked signal to be at -6 dB. I had the same issue when I first started getting into plugins and messing around with them. I'm like, I can't get any of these to sound good. They all sound like they have way too much gain. They all sound way too like bass heavy. And come to find out that even though I was not clipping the input on my Focusrite Scarlett, the input was way too hot in my DAW, and all I had to do was turn that input gain down until I was around the -6 dB mark on my palm mutes, and all of a sudden, all the plugins sounded good to me. So go ahead and try that, man. I know I replied to your comment, and if any of you guys are having a problem getting plugins to sound good, I would advise you to check your input gain on the DAW and try to have it somewhere around -6 at its highest point. That way you're not overloading the input of the plugin itself, and it should balance out your guitar tone. It should be a lot less woofy, a lot less dark, should give you better dynamics, and it won't be so oversaturated in the gain, because I had the same exact problem when I started, and that was the issue. 4142 Wilb says, you want to trade me your EVH EL34 Stealth for my 6L6 Stealth? No! First Step says, that speaker combination is incredible. He was referring to my Omega Grandifier video where I demoed my custom half stack that I ordered directly from Omega. It has the VM1265 speaker in the bottom and the DV77 up top, and yeah, the combination of those two speakers is genius. They sound incredible together, they complement each other perfectly, and when I recorded the intro track for that video, I was super happy with the guitar tones, with the guitar going straight into the amp and just balancing the speakers. I had each speaker mic'd up with an SM57, and I just balanced them. I had the DV77 a little louder, and I had the VM1265 a little lower in the mix, but it was providing just enough mid content to really make that guitar cut and sit where it needed to in the mix. And I am really interested in doing more videos like that where I kind of demo speaker combinations, because I've really gotten into speakers over the last year, guys. I have a massive collection of cabs and speakers, and not only that, but microphones too, and I really want to start demonstrating for you guys out there who are recording at home different speaker combinations if you're still using analog amps and gear to record your guitar tones that really work for metal mixes. Now, Sweetwater has hooked me up with a couple of microphones, and they have hooked me up with a couple of cool Celestion speakers and Eminence speakers. Warehouse Guitar Speakers also sent me some stuff this week, and I still have the Weber speakers that they sent me a while ago that I actually need to do a video on for them here very soon, on top of all the other stuff that I already owned before I even started the YouTube channel. So thanks so much to those companies for helping me out and sending me stuff for me to demo for you guys, so you guys can get a better idea of what speakers sound like what, and what speakers make a good pair for metal and thrash and hardcore and stuff like that. I definitely would love to dive into that stuff more, especially because you guys really seem to be taking to my cab videos where I take apart the cabs and then demonstrate the cabinets with different amplifiers. So I'm just gonna take that a step further by getting some different speakers in a mix and showing you guys some of the alternatives out there to the Vintage 30, because of course the Vintage 30 is the standard, it's the go-to for good reason. It records great, it sounds great, but I think a lot of players are realizing how much the speaker in the cabinet matters and their overall tone, and are really starting to get curious about speakers other than the Vintage 30 for their metal and hardcore tone. So daggone it, we're gonna go ahead and explore it together. And I'm really excited to take that journey and kind of move this channel a little bit more in that direction, as opposed to just me, you know, belligerently demoing amps and pedals, and that's it. You know, that stuff is fun for me. That's obviously why I started the channel, but my interests change, as will my interests of my viewers over time. So I hope that you guys find that stuff interesting. It really seems like you do, and I'm gonna start chasing that a little bit more. Don't worry, the amp and the pedal demos are going nowhere. The SM57 is going nowhere, but we're just gonna start mixing it up a little bit moving forward, because I'm really having fun with that stuff, and it seems like you guys are too. So with that being said, that is gonna do it for me today. I hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend. I appreciate each and every one of your guys' comments. Thanks so much for participating on the channel. I'm having a lot of fun the last couple of weeks. I really feel like I'm back to that fire that I had when I first started this channel, and I'm really excited to get the content out there for you guys every day. Down in the description of this video, go help my man, Scott Elliot. And when I say my man, I mean this guy that I actually don't know whatsoever. But again, metal and hardcore community, we help our own, and he seems like a good dude in a bad spot. So it would mean a lot to me if you guys would go down there, check his video out, subscribe to his channel, donate to him and his family, or pick up one of his courses in order to help him out. I'm removing all of my affiliate links from this video, so it'll be really easy for you guys to find. If you like this video, consider subscribing to this channel as well, hitting that like button on the way out, and that's all I got for this week. So Kyle here again. We'll see you guys next time.